Welcome, learners, to another deep dive. Today we're plunging into Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature. Have you ever found yourself baffled by someone's actions, or, even your own, wondering, what was I thinking? Hmm. We often default to these really easy labels, that person's just evil, or maybe I wasn't myself. But our source material today suggests those surface-level explanations don't really help us understand, or prevent recurring patterns.
Exactly. And what's striking is how Green argues that we humans, we tend to live very much on that surface, reacting emotionally, to what people say and do, forming these simplified, often quite convenient opinions of ourselves and others. We sort of gravitate towards the easiest story, right? The one that causes us the least discomfort.
Right. And our mission today is to cut through that surface, to really extract the core insights from this vast body of knowledge. Think of it as a clear-eyed, maybe even brutally realistic appraisal of our species, dissecting who we are so you can operate with more awareness in the world and, importantly, within yourself. So let's truly unpack this. Let's see how we can become masters of understanding ourselves and others. Okay, so our first core idea, it dives into something we often just take for granted: our own rationality. You might assume you're, born rational, but Green asserts it's not really an inherent power, it's more a capacity you acquire through conscious training,
Right.
practice.
Mm-hmm. And a key insight here is why we so often fall short of that rationality. Our source points directly to our base emotions, that hunger for power, for attention, for money. Those are the silent drivers, really, of our decisions rather than our actual long-term self-interest.
Green illustrates this so well with the example of Pericles in ancient Athens. Here's a guy, right, from an aristocratic family, but he chose to ally with the lower and middle classes, work to amplify their voice. He surveyed the whole political landscape and realized other leaders, despite their tactical moves, they were fundamentally guided by these raw emotions,
Yeah.
which inevitably led to chaos.
Yeah.
Pericles, though, he cultivated this profound calmness. He opened his mind to all ideas, even from opponents, imagined consequences way down the line, and really fostered a golden age for Athens.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text suggests that your inner Athena, that sense of higher potential, that calm clarity is something you can feel, in moments of tranquility. But so often, our minds are just weighed down, not just by our own emotions, but by the emotional drama of others, pulling our attention every which way.
That's such a powerful image, the mind being weighed down. So, okay, how does this apply to your world? Green suggests your very first task is to examine the emotions constantly infecting your ideas,
Yeah.
your decisions. Why that specific anger, or that resentment, or that incessant need for attention.
Yeah.
And the surprising thing is, under scrutiny, these emotions, they lose their hypnotic hold. It's like shining a light on a shadow.
Yeah.
It might still be there, but its power to scare you diminishes.
Mm-hmm. And we see this play out on a massive scale, too. Think about the financial crashes, 2008, 1987, 1929, even the South Sea Bubble back in the 1720s. Millions of buyers and sellers just swept away by collective irrationality, infected by that alluring promise of easy money.
Like a contagion.
Exactly. Experts and studies were often just cherry-picked to bolster what people already desperately wanted to believe. Oh, this time it's different, or prices only go up. Instead of confronting the speculation, people just pointed fingers elsewhere, unwilling to face their own emotional part in it.
And building on that, Green introduces a concept that's, well, it's particularly chilling: high-grade irrationality. This is when emotions like anger or excitement or suspicion, they don't just influence us, they intensify into a complete reactive state that colors absolutely everything we see.
That sounds dangerous.
It is. This could escalate into violence, manic obsessions, uncontrollable greed, or just this desperate desire to control others. Recognizing when you might be entering this state is crucial because it allows you to pull back before you do something regrettable, irreversible maybe.
And then there's the pervasive pleasure principle in our thinking. It's almost like our brain's internal comfort seeker. It's wired to gravitate towards ideas that make us feel good, that soothe our ego or make us feel superior. And conversely, it just recoils from anything painful or challenging, even if it's the truth.
Confirmation bias territory.
Yeah, pretty much. This inherent desire for comfort is the invisible engine driving all our mental biases. If a thought makes you uncomfortable, your brain's first impulse is often to just dismiss it, simply because it feels better. And if you think you're immune, well, that's probably the pleasure principle working its magic right there.
Okay, so if our own minds are so prone to these biases and emotions, how can we possibly hope to truly understand others, their complex motives? This is where our exploration uncovers that we need to relearn an almost forgotten skill: the art of observation. Usually we have no clue what really causes other people's, well, ugly actions. But what if we could know?
What's really remarkable here is that as children, we were naturally brilliant observers. Small and weak, right? Our survival depended on decoding smiles, tones, body language. We could instantly sense threat or comfort from nonverbal cues. Green points out that children are the bane of inveterate liars because of this sensitivity.
I believe that.
But slowly, from around age 5, this sharpness gets dulled. We turn inward, focus more on our own thoughts, our own reactions.
The book introduces figures like Milton Erickson, a psychiatrist who focused way more on physical presence than words. He could apparently detect hidden tension, unmet desires, even read subliminal speech just from a person's face, voice, posture.
Wow.
His patients often thought he had psychic powers, but really it was just intense study, mastery of nonverbal communication.
So how do we get that back? Or develop it?
Yeah.
Well, the text emphasizes you first need to recognize your own self-absorption, how little you actually observe because you're so caught up in your own head. Then you deliberately open your senses, relate to people more physically, absorb their energy, not just their words. It's like consciously building a vocabulary in this nonverbal language. You start correlating gestures with specific emotions, seeing what you've been missing.
So how does this translate into action for you? What's the practical takeaway? It means mastering nonverbal cues for what Green calls impression management. Subtly adjusting your tone, your mannerisms, body language to connect with each individual, each situation. You want to appear likable, confident, genuine. We do this instinctively already, right? The goal here is to make it conscious, strategic.
Right, and conversely, you can use these skills to decode hostility. Look for sudden squinting, a hard glare, pursed lips, a stiff neck, the body turning away, folded arms, or even those tiny, fleeting facial movements, micro-expressions that flash true emotion before they're masked.
Ah, those are fascinating. Hard to spot, though.
Very, and people tend to leak their true feelings more when they're tired, angry, maybe had a drink, or are under stress. They're often more themselves then.
Interesting. You can also gauge influence, maybe seduction.
Yeah, when people feel comfortable, open to your influence, they stand closer, lean in, their arms are typically open, frequent head nods, attentive gazes, genuine smiles, those indicate agreement.
And the best sign.
Synchrony, that unconscious mirroring of your body language. If they cross their legs when you do or lean back when you do, you're often building a powerful connection.
You can even spot insecurity in leaders. Green uses Nicolas Sarkozy as an example. He often liked to assert his presence, seem dominant, but during a tense Euro crisis meeting, Chancellor Merkel noticed his foot just nervously jiggling under the table.
A tell.
Exactly. It provided crucial information. His overly assertive style was actually a distraction, a cover for insecurities.
Right. And insecure leaders often show other tells too. Speaking haltingly, maybe a higher-pitched voice, averting gaze, blinking more, or touching themselves face, neck, that's called pacifying behavior, a subconscious attempt to self-soothe when stressed.
Okay, now let's pivot. From surface observations to understanding something much deeper. Human character.
Yeah.
This is that deeply ingrained, almost compulsive force that makes us act in certain ways, often beyond our own awareness or control.
Character, yeah. The text explains it as having 3 foundational layers. First, our genetic predispositions, the natural leanings we're born with. Second, the deep stamp from our earliest years and attachments. John Bowlby explored this with his schemas, right? These deep patterns like being dismissing, avoiding emotional closeness, or maybe enmeshed ambivalent, constantly seeking validation. These early patterns profoundly shape how we cope with pleasure and pain our whole lives.
Howard Hughes Jr. is used as a powerful, almost tragic illustration here. He carefully constructed this public image. Rugged individualist, lone genius.
The myth.
Exactly. But beneath the smiles, Green reveals a man who bitterly resented any dependence. He needed total control because of deep childhood anxieties. This compulsion led to micromanagement, chaos, and his vast inherited fortune just kept covering his business failures in areas he personally ran.
And what happened when things went wrong?
He'd often just disappear or fall mysteriously ill. A classic escape from accountability, really.
Wow. So this raises a really important question for you, the listener. When choosing people to work with, or even just associate with, don't be mesmerized by just reputation or charm or intelligence alone. Character is primary. We often make the mistake, don't we? Assuming success means good character, or that someone's stated beliefs, religious, political, guarantee it.
That's a huge point. People bring the character they have to the position or belief system, not the other way around.
So how do you spot it then? How do you gauge character?
Look at how people handle everyday things.
Yeah.
If they're always late on small tasks, they'll likely be late on big ones. If they crumble under small inconveniences, they'll probably collapse under large ones.
Consistency.
Exactly. Pay extra attention to how they behave under stress, and especially how they handle power.
Mm.
Lincoln famously said, if you want to test a man's character, give him power. It's in those moments the truth comes out.
The book also highlights several specific narcissistic types that really show these deep compulsions. First, there's the complete control narcissist, like Joseph Stalin. Outwardly charming, maybe accessible, made others feel important, but the real aim, absolute control. Subordinates become obsessed with reading his moods.
Then there's the grandiose. Green uses Jeanne d'Ange as an example. From a young age, she had this insatiable appetite for attention, drove nuns crazy with her sense of superiority. She even fabricated demonic possession, stigmata, not just for notoriety, but to keep that constant public focus. She mastered sensing and exploiting others' weaknesses.
Wow. And the pampered type? Sonia Tolstoy, Leo Tolstoy's wife. After a childhood of just constant pampering, she tried to recreate her lost paradise as an adult. Baby-like tantrums, manipulative behavior, her need for attention and control over his life, even his diaries, drove him to despair. Ultimately hastened his death, Green argues. It's intense. And finally, there's the rebel. This type seems perpetually locked in adolescence, resisting all authority, using vicious humor to undermine control, constantly splitting from people on bad terms.
They thrive on the attention from their anti-authority pose, but it's rooted in this eternal defiance.
So it's chilling how distinct these patterns are. But what's the core thread Green suggests unites them? And maybe more importantly, what's the takeaway for us when we see these compulsions?
That's the key question, isn't it? The commonality is often some profound insecurity or an unfulfilled need from childhood manifesting in these rigid, compulsive behaviors they just can't seem to break free from. The key takeaway for us isn't to try and fix them. You probably can't. The real insight is to recognize the pattern so you don't get caught in their emotional traps. Understand their behavior is a compulsion, not necessarily personal. Right. And the concept of the shadow is deeply connected here. That hidden, denied part of ourselves, selfish, manipulative, aggressive, it emerges under stress or when our insecurities get triggered. The challenge is identifying it in ourselves. Green suggests we're only half a human if we keep it buried.
But there's hope for transformation, right?
Absolutely. That's the path to power. Green outlines. Transformation. You can channel weaknesses into strengths. A hyper-perfectionist.
Yeah.
They can direct that intense focus into incredibly productive work.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's always been a people pleaser. They can harness those courtier skills as genuine social charm. Not manipulation, but connection.
And a highly sensitive person, maybe often overwhelmed, they can develop active empathy, sensing others' needs with great precision. For each weakness, there's a corresponding strength.
Okay, as we reach the final stage of our deep dive, let's look at how perspective, purpose, and even confronting our own mortality can, perhaps surprisingly, liberate us.
Most of us, well, we live within a fairly narrow time frame, don't we? We almost instinctively recoil from thinking too deeply about the distant past or the far future. But the text suggests we can actively manufacture perspective. This means consciously gaining distance from the immediate present, looking deeper at problems, wider at their context, and much further into the future to foresee consequences.
It's like climbing a mountain, right? The higher you go, the clearer and more expansive the view becomes.
Exactly that.
And this elevated perspective is so valuable for avoiding unintended consequences. Think about Caesar's assassination meant to restore the Republic, but instead led straight to a monarchy.
Or the British trying to eliminate cobras in Delhi only for the population to triple because people started breeding them for the bounty.
Right. Or even just trying to cheer up a depressed friend and somehow making them feel worse. Without that wider view, our actions often backfire.
What really stands out here, too, is the call to develop a compelling sense of purpose. And this isn't found through external prodding or trying to fit in. It's through what Green calls visceral attraction, activities that just feel natural, easy, where you have a greater tolerance for the boring bits because you're so drawn to the work itself.
Like Ingrid Bergman saying, I didn't choose acting, it chose me. An almost involuntary pull.
Precisely, a deep affinity.
But we need to be aware of false purposes. These can be vague microcauses or maybe cults driven purely by emotion, or the relentless, exhausting pursuit of money and success, which often leads to burnout and short-term mistakes.
Or even the draining quest for constant attention on social media. They might offer fleeting satisfaction, but they ultimately leave you feeling empty, no real direction. Martin Luther King Jr.'s experience offers a powerful counterpoint here. Faced with just overwhelming burdens, inner conflict, he famously described experiencing an inner voice. It clarified his destiny. This wasn't some external command. It was an internal authority that let him regulate his anxiety and stress, turning them into productive emotions, driving him toward his goals, finding that clarity within.
Here's another really fascinating idea: generational awareness. Our specific generation profoundly influences our worldview, shapes our values, our reactions.
Right. The book highlights the silent generation, the baby boomers, how each generation often reacts against the perceived imbalances of the one before it.
Understanding the spirit of the times, like Danton sensing the shift just before the French Revolution, or Coco Chanel tapping into that repressed desire for less constricting clothes, gives you immense power.
You can then subtly subvert the spirit of the times. Or, like Hitchcock mastering visual language for sound films, you can modernize your own spirit to appeal to new audiences. Adapt.
Okay, and finally, the most provocative thought, perhaps: confronting our own mortality.
The story of Flannery O'Connor is powerful here. She wrote Wise Blood after being diagnosed with lupus. That acute, inescapable awareness of death compelled her to confront reality directly, to make every moment count.
We tend to avoid thoughts of death, don't we? We delay awareness. And that often leads to this generalized anxiety of vague emptiness.
Yeah. But the text proposes embracing the sublime, anything that just exceeds our capacity for words, like the vastness of the cosmos or death itself. It reminds us of our smallness, yes, but it also inspires profound awe, wonder, opens us up to something larger than our petty concerns.
This, Green argues, is the ultimate antidote to complacency, getting caught up in superficial worries.
By turning around our fear of death, becoming more aware of our fleeting mortality, we can taste true freedom. It compels us to be more daring, maybe cut loose from illusions, addictions, to commit fully to our most important work, our relationships.
And there you have it. Learners, a truly deep dive into the complex, often surprising landscape of human nature, courtesy of Robert Greene.
From understanding the illusion of our own rationality, the hidden forces of character, to the power of observation, finding authentic purpose, and yes, confronting our mortality, this deep dive offers some really profound insights for navigating both yourself and the world around you.
The challenge, as Greene powerfully implies, isn't really to become someone else. It's to be more thoroughly yourself, transforming your weaknesses into strengths through conscious awareness.
So as you go forth today, maybe consider this. What specific aspect of your own human nature will you choose to explore or perhaps transform to bring out that higher, more aware self?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparks some aha moments and maybe sets you on a path to greater awareness. Until next time.